phone is off. I'm good. Okay, so I don't believe there's any visitors that wanted to be recognized at this point. So we're going to skip item 2, or item 2 is complete, I guess. Did want to call everybody's attention to, we are operating on the paper agenda that we all have, so. Okay. Roll call, please, Tom.
Mr. Terry?
Here.
Brock? Fletcher?
Here.
Whittlesey?
Here.
Gone.
Here. Okay. Bring us to item 4. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as listed in the hard copy in front of us?
Move.
Second, please.
Second.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please, Todd.
Whittlesey?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Gone.
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes. Item 5, the President's Report. Really don't have anything new to report. School ended great. Graduation was great. Summer seems to be going very well. I know everybody's very busy with administrative things and getting staff ready and everybody for the new year and that. So for the new school year about to start, we appreciate all that effort. Just want to note the principals, we excused the principals from the meeting today. They're enjoying their summer, and we got a report from them last month and every month before that, so we should be good. So we won't be hearing from them, but that's about all I had to report. So turn it. Sean?
Okay, just a couple things to report. First, the air test results. I won't go line by line, but just some things I want to point out. I was very pleased with some of our scores. I'm very pleased with many of our scores, and there's work to do on other scores. Our best was in the elementary, 3rd grade math. I'll read these through very quickly and not linger on it, but our 3rd grade math scored 73%, state average 52% passing. 4th grade math, 73%, the state average was 69%. Social studies, 4th grade, I want to really point this one out. We had 96% pass. Congratulations to those teachers. The state average was 76. We really blew that one out of the water. We were second to Aurora. Aurora had 97%, but we were right behind the rest of the county. They were around the 80s and 70s. Language arts 5th grade pass was 76%. State average was 60. Science 5th grade 86%, which was outstanding. State average was 67%. So, once again, we were second only to Aurora, who had 93% pass. 7th grade math. Congratulations to those kids. We had 77% pass the 7th grade math test. 55% was the state average, so we were well above the average with that as well. In fact, we were the only school besides Aurora to pass that indicator in the county, so I was very happy with a lot of our results. Algebra 1 met an indicator was 78%. We were the only school to meet that particular indicator. History 84%, and biology 77%. So we had a lot of very nice high scores for the first time I've taken the air test, replacing the PARC tests. The younger grades in the high school fared better. Middle school struggled, but I will point this out. This is nothing against the middle school students or kids, but they did struggle for the first time out. But I can say this: everyone in the county struggled. I know I sent the scores to you guys earlier, to the board earlier. We were one of the few who did have some passing scores, where the rest in the county, other than Aurora, of course, but the rest in the county did not pass. They had large blocks of not meeting any of their indicators. So, take that with a grain of salt. We've done some nice things, but it also left us with room to grow. Steps that we're taking to keep making those improvements. We talked about doing different things, taking a look at our department chairs role and revamping that just a little bit. We've talked about doing different things. So we've talked about maybe possibly having lesson plans turned in to continue moving on the right direction. We've talked about celebrating successes. Some of the teachers who work their tails off to have their students score. I talked to a few of the teachers who did have their students score well, and the thing I heard over and over again, they really, they kept saying it was the connection they felt they had with their particular classes, that, the kids wanted to do well because they really wanted them to do well. And I kept hearing that theme over and over again. I think that's something that if we can get that going throughout the whole district, we'd see even more success. So we're hoping for that. And I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how we do, how we improve, how we grow. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised at some of the scores, but we do have room to grow. We're going to keep working at that. All right. So that's the first report. The other report, very quickly, I just wanted to point out that we interviewed photographers who are interested in doing our fall photography. We settled up, I want to make sure I say that name right, Cheryl Taylor Photography. We brought in several different groups, and I don't know anything about photography, but what we did was basically look at who gave us the best presentation and who was most cost friendly. Cheryl, I know, is a local person, so we were very happy to have that as well. So congratulations to Cheryl, and we're looking forward to seeing their work this fall. And that's all I have.
Is that for the whole year or just for the fall sports and activities?
For the fall and the winter sport, I guess for the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah, I should say that. It's always a bigger deal in the fall. It seems like when everybody's coming back, but it's going to be for the
whole year.
throughout the whole year.
It's great to hear the results of the air test scores are improved. Do we have when does the report card come out?
That, good question. The report card comes out much earlier this year. It's going to be, they're saying it's going to be September, sometime in the early fall, September, early October. Looking forward to that as well.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, great. Treasurer's report.
I'll discuss what I have when we get to the last agenda item.
Okay, all right. We're gonna, high school, middle school, elementary, we're good. Anything from Maplewood, Diane?
Oh, I haven't been there yet, so
Okay,
next week.
next week, great. All right, and then from a legislative update, I believe that's,
Yes, I do. There's a pending bill in the state senate, number 326, that would require, I need to make sure I get this right, the Ohio School Facilities Commission to establish a program assisting school districts in purchasing technology and making physical alterations to improve technology infrastructure and school safety and security, which we do a pretty good job of anyway with our technology upkeep, but that would be for making sure that every school has the ability to keep proper technology. So
what was the number now?
326. Can I see it?
No, it's good. We'll have to look it up.
That's all.
Thanks. Okay, any new business? Any of the board members would like to bring up? All right. That brings us to the consent agenda. May we have a motion to accept the listed agenda items, superintendent's business A through J and treasurer's business A through C?
Second.
Okay, we'll let Sean highlight anything out of the superintendent's section he'd like to.
Just want to point out a couple of things, recommending to accept the resignation of Lauren Hutchison. She's not resigning, she is resigning as teacher, but she's going to be joining us as district special services director. She's already got big plans, and we're excited to have her aboard. I think she's going to do a great job. We also have Robin Ferguson as a district athletic assistant to work with our athletic directors doing their job. We're very excited about the work that she's already started, so welcome aboard with that one. We appreciate that. We also have one thing I want to point out, we have
Is Pete gonna be gone the whole year?
Not sure yet.
Okay,
Hope not.
okay.
Hope not.
So then if he comes back, we'll just utilize Mr. Peretta in other
Correct.
spots.
Yeah, in fact, we don't even know exactly when he's leaving, so what we're gonna do is have Mr. Brett come on and work with him, we actually use him, as a sub when we have some teachers absent, but,
Okay.
we don't know exactly, we know it's early in the school year, we just don't have the exact date yet, but.
Okay, any questions for Sean? Okay. Todd, anything you want to highlight there?
Normal minutes and financials, and then we're just recommending to approve the return of the following advances that we made last fiscal year to close out the year, which return those advances back to the general fund.
Okay. Any questions for Todd? Okay, roll call, please.
Let's see, Whittlesey,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Gum,
Yes.
Quesateri.
Yes. Okay, that brings us to talking about a levy, additional, as we've discussed previous meetings, as we discussed in previous meetings, we really need to be on the ballot this November, because we're very quickly reaching the point where I think our last levy was scheduled to last us through 2017.
That's correct.
And it's time, so we need to increase revenue to keep us in the black, if you will. And the key, one of the real keys is passing a levy this year, because if we don't pass it this calendar year, you can't collect it till the next calendar year. So if we pass it in 2017 or 2016, we start collecting in 2017. If we don't pass it this year, and we pass it next year, we don't start collecting until 2018. So if 1 mil or 10 mils, let's use a ridiculously high number instead of a ridiculously low number. If 10 mils is what it took this year, next year, and we don't pass it this year, next year it may take 13 mils to do the same amount. So that's why getting it passed this year is so critical. So I know Todd's provided us with a lot of data, and I will turn it over to him.
Okay. Well, like you said, back in 2013, the voters said give us something, the lowest mill as possible for the shortest amount of time. And we put a 5.9 5-year operating levy on the ballot, and we told the voters that we would get out through fiscal year 2017, which we are. We're getting out through fiscal year 2017. So I put before you tonight a sheet, and these have transpired at the end of this school year. And as you can see there, we've been able to reduce our expenditures by about $300,000 a year. And you can take a look there of where we made those reductions at. Removal of the impact group and the dollars associated with that. We were able to, through reassignment of teachers, we dropped down from 4 teachers to 3 teachers in 1st and 2nd grade. You see the savings associated with that. We hired our own in-house special ed director. We did not replace the athletic director, dean of students. That's now solely an AD stipend, and that position is still assuming teaching duties. And then we combined several jobs done through the ESC in-house, which is the savings there. So we have an approximate savings of $300,000 a year, which really helped moving forward with a more palatable millage request that we're going to have to ask for. So if you take a look at this packet here.
Can I just,
Yeah.
I think something that's really, really key here is the very last sentence, is that we save $300,000 a year without reducing staff, any reduction in force, and without a tremendous impact to student learning. So that was just good fiscal management and just trying to make our dollars stretch as far as we possibly can. So that's very important, because as we talked about with the error scores, we saw some improvement, and we don't want to take a big step back. We want to keep improving through so that's very important. Go ahead, Todd, I'm sorry.
So if you take a look at this packet here, I put together various millage amounts, and based on those different varying amounts, it'll show you how far out we get in the black for the fiscal years as listed there. So the table on your left is with the passage in November, and then the table on your right is if we have to go into calendar year 17, what it would take to raise approximately the same amount of money. So if you take a look at, if we look at 5.5 mils, that would get us out to fiscal year 20 in the black. And you can see the resulting ending balance from that 5.5 mils. If you go right across, if it passes in, if we have to pass something in 2017, for approximately that same dollar amount, it would go from 5.5 mils, we would have to ask for 7.68 mils. So, you know, going into the next fiscal year, we would have to ask for an additional 2.25 mils in addition, if we have to go in 17 versus passing in 16. So then just go right on down the line. You can see from 5.5 what it would ending balance would be in at the end of fiscal year 20, all the way up to 7.25 what the ending balance would be in fiscal year 20. And then if we go 7.5, 7.75, 8 mils, it takes us into a black balance ending fiscal year 21.
And it's really interesting when you get to 6.25 mils, 6.25 this year, to do the same thing next year, passing in next year is 8.75, that's an additional 2.5 mils. So
And
this
it doesn't
year,
get you quite as much.
it doesn't even get you
Right.
quite as much. So that's a huge,
Right.
that's 2.5 mils. That's a huge difference.
So, you know, as I mentioned before, you know, the board needs to make a decision. One, do you want to put a continuing operating levy on the ballot or another 5-year operating levy on the ballot? Keeping in mind that, and also keeping in mind that these ending balances that are listed here, it's contingent on the renewal of the 5.9 mil 2013 levy passing. Okay? And the first time we can put that on the ballot is November of 2017. And the last time we can put that on the ballot is November of 2018. This still haven't be considered a renewal. So that's the first thing, continuing operating levy or another 5-year operating levy. And then secondly, you know, how far out do you want to get the district financially in the 5-year forecast and by what dollar amount? So those are listed there. Let's see what else. And I had this sheet here corresponds with the various millage scenarios there on, you know, what a taxpayer would pay based on the valuation of their home. So that's for you to look at as well. And that's basically what I have for tonight for us to decide.
So if I'm reading this right, Todd, if we went with 6 mils, just pulling a nice round number out,
Okay.
on a $100,000 home, that would cost somebody who owns a home with a market value of $100,000, $17.50 a month.
That's correct.
So,
Did you say a month?
yes. Yeah, so that's, you know, that's a lot of different ways to break down what $17 a month is, but, I mean,
17 or
17, $17.50 a month, I'm sorry.
And you know,
Did I start?
and we
Did I
spoke,
say-
Instead of eight.
Okay, I'm sorry.
you know, as we spoke before, I mean, I think it's critical that we maintain some financial stability, you know, 4 years out, 5 years out, whatever you decide to do, just for the fact that we can continue to improve our programs and continue to do things necessary to improve all facets of our local school district. You know, if you get your situation where you're just getting by year by year by year, you know, it really limits us to, you hate to institute programs just to have to cut the programs like we've done, you know, the last 20 years when we're trying to pass a law.
I think that in my opinion, I'm certainly open to whatever you guys think. I think it'd be good to step down the line and get input. First of all, go through, do we think we need a continuing or do we need a permanent? Bearing in mind that we have a continuing that's up in 2000,
A 5.
the 5-year renewable that's up in another next year, right?
17 or 18.
17 or 18. So if we were to go continuing or non-continuing, something we'd have to renew, we'd be talking about having 2 levies that we'd have to renew.
And keep in mind, when, you know, when we put this 5-year on, we said, well, remember now, we're gonna be in a situation where we're gonna have to pass new money and the renewal. And if we go with the 5-year, keep in mind, when that time comes, we're gonna be renewing 2 renewals and asking for new money.
Yeah. So, Ken, what do you think, continuing or renewable?
Of course, I think continuing, but, you know, I just gotta ingest all of this, but I would prefer the continuing.
How about you, Diane?
I would prefer continuing.
I don't see why you wouldn't prefer continuing.
So I think we're in agreement then that we should go with a continuing levy.
Okay.
Because that's what I think too. So then the next question is based on these numbers, what kind of millage? And correct me the process, Todd. I believe we have to do 2 resolutions before when?
So, you know, I was anticipating passing the first resolution tonight,
Okay.
based on our discussion. And then then I have to submit this to the county auditor. She has 5 days to get back to us to certify the numbers. And then we just have to have a second meeting prior, and I have to file with the Board of Elections prior to August 10th.
So we could do that. So if we set an amount now to this meeting, next board meeting, is it before August 10th?
I don't think so. We would have to have a second board meeting in July.
I'm not reading my phone for anybody who's looking. I'm looking at my calendar. So yeah, our next board meeting is the 11th, August 11th. So.
So
Okay.
we could do something the week of the 25th possibly.
Okay, well, I was just wondering if we could get it in, but we're not gonna have to. We're gonna have to have a special meeting anyhow, so. Okay, so I guess the next thing is to look at what we logically feel is the right amount to go after. Since we started with Ken, first time, we'll start with Adam this time. Or unless you would rather defer.
I would rather defer. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Obviously, I'd like to get through as long as we could. I think it's critical to give us stability, and it really gives us an opportunity to focus on our education and initiatives without having to constantly worry about the financial impact. You know, robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. I would like to get into fiscal year 21, but keeping it within the perception of the community, having the ability to keep it reasonable as much as we can. I was looking at either the 6.75 or the 7.0. That keeps it under or at about $20 a month. And I think that's very much a conservative compromise with what we could do and knowing the community's needs and what the community expectations were. So I think 6.75 on a $100,000 house or property is $19.69 a month. 7% would be just over that at
$20.42.
$20.42. My inclination would be to go with 7 mil.
Okay, Diane?
Okay, being on previous levy committees, and I've listened to a lot of community members, that sounds like a good plan. However, I think if you take this list and you go down about halfway, which takes you about around 6.5, 6.75, and you look at the numbers over here, I think that'll go a little smoother with the community. That's my opinion.
Okay. Are you ready, Adam, or you want me to go?
I'm new to this, Brian.
Okay, that's okay, take your time. Well, first of all,
Yeah, I'm getting it.
You-
It's
I mean,
just a lot to take in, you know what I mean?
I certainly do. I apologize for not having it to you.
No, it's okay.
But basically, if we go 5.5, we get out to 2020. We don't go to 2021 till we go 7.5.
Yeah.
That's, so I'll talk, I'm thinking out loud while you're looking. You know, I look at it and I say, at 5.5, we can probably make it to 2020. To get to 2021 doesn't happen until about 7.5. But I have a feeling if we got to 6, we could maybe stretch it that extra year. We might be close enough we can get that extra year out of it. Right, Todd, maybe?
Well, again, this is barring no state cuts.
Right.
And so,
But there's a chance we could.
And
but
the
yeah,
thing-
I mean, there's
so-
always a chance.
Yeah.
So there's,
Uh,
with
What
that.
I'm concerned about is we've made enough, I mean, we've not made enough, but I think we've shown a good faith effort to combining, if you look at what we've done just in the past year, to consolidate $300,000 worth of expenses, and we're hoping that these things work. And we have every intention that they would. We don't make decisions haphazardly. We've done a lot of consolidation, and I don't know how much more we can consolidate from an administrative standpoint without getting into the educational expense or the curriculum. And I don't want to touch that. We all don't want to touch that. That's the bar that we've long established, that we will do everything above and beyond to keep from cutting curriculum as much as we could. So we've made a lot of good faith efforts by working with our teachers and working with our administrators to consolidate jobs and positions, and that takes its toll on an individual in itself, because it's a tremendous amount of work and responsibility, and when you're multitasking, and I think that there should be some, we should ask that we are doing our due diligence here, but I think that we need for our community to do some due diligence too, and give us a little bit of comfort and a little bit of room to work with our financial resources in the district. And 6, I absolutely agree with you. I think regardless of what we have, we're going to always administrate in our best interests, and if we can extend that out, we will.
Right.
To help the big picture. But I also think that rather than working in a situation where you're constantly stressed over every nickel and dime, that I think we've shown due diligence with how we manage, that we need some consideration and a little bit of breathing room. And I think the increased millage would give us a little bit of breathing room, that every decision we make would not have to be a success, because we can't afford a mistake. And we don't look to make mistakes, but mistakes for us can be critical. And I think that having some breathing room would help us manage more financially, to take the stress off of what impact a decision would have for our district.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going. I have two schools of thought. School number one is 5.9, gets us through fiscal year 2020. Okay. And gives us some cushion. And then my second school of thought is like, well, maybe 6.9 gets us almost through 2021, almost to 2021, or puts us in better shape if we have to go back, or depending on who knows what's going to happen in 5 years. I mean, I don't know of any big block of retirements or any big things that are going to come on, or obviously I don't expect the state to give us any huge chunks of money here in the
And
next.
I don't expect really any more wiggle room for any more financial savings.
Right.
On the expense side.
Right. So my 5.9 is kind of palatable, and it matches what our renewable is 5.9. And that's kind of nice because it's below 6, and it's $17.50 a month. you know, we may have a better chance of getting that passed, but as a private individual, I would rather see 6.9 because it's an extra $3 a month per 100,000. So, I mean, so I think that one of those two is where we need to go, either 5.9 or 6.9. Does the logic make sense?
Mhm.
Well, based on all the cuts and everything else that have been made over the course of the last levy, I'd rather see a 6.9 levy just because it gets you out further, stretches you almost to the fiscal year 2021, and you also have that wiggle room if you need it.
Okay, do we think we can get a 6.9 passed? That's the next question. I mean, I hesitate to do this because we have rowdies in the audience, but I mean, Thor, you lived in the community pretty much all your life. Do you have a feel for,
Now, the 6.9 would go on first, and then when did the renewal come, Todd? When will they see that? They'll see that afterwards?
Well, we could either put that on November or 17, so this would go on in May. I mean, this would be November, but if we roll into next year, it'd be May or November. So if we didn't pass in November, we would have it on in May, and then, of course, it doesn't pass in May, November, but then, you know, again, the first eligible time we could put on is November, the renewal is November of 2017, the last we could put on is November of 18. So, I mean, if we have to push it out to 18, the renewal, we can do that, so we don't have two on in the same year.
Right, because I don't think that's what we want.
No.
I think we definitely want to stick with the one itself before, we don't want to see both of those at the same time. And, well, you know, Brian, like you said, if it's roughly, if we can sell it roughly at $20 a month, I think that's a decent figure, you know, that we have the best chance, you know, of doing that. And was that at the 6.9?
that was,
I don't know.
that's 6.9 is $20.42 a month
Okay.
for, or well, it's a little bit less. 7 mills is $20.42 a month.
It'd
But-
be roughly
So
20.
it's right around $20 a month, and it gets us out for, you know, roughly another 5 years, right? Through
Well, it gets us out through
2021?
fiscal year 20.
20.
20?
Mhm.
That one
So
over
we're
there?
in 17 right now,
Oh, I
so it gets
thought-
us out 4 years.
Oh, I thought Brian said 6.9 was almost through 20.
Close.
Almost
We
gets
would
us to
have-
2021, almost.
We would. Now, if this fails,
That's the next
That's the
statement.
big,
yeah.
huge
Yeah.
thing.
then that same 6.9 or 7, that same 7 mills jumps to 9.25 to keep the same
And
money.
that's what we always have to
And-
educate them about.
And if we don't pass in November, with whatever,
Without looking like we're threatening.
with whatever we do, yeah, if we don't pass in November, no matter what, the minimum we'd have to go on next year would be 8 mills. So I'm, in my mind, I'm sitting here I'm sitting back and thinking, obviously, I'd love to have 8 or 9 mills, but I'd love to have 6.9, but do we have a better chance of passing 5.9? Because if we don't make good, not this year, next year it goes, you know, to 8 mills.
We don't want them to come together.
Well, and it goes to 8 mills next year to do the same as what 5.9 would do this year. So that's huge.
I mean, you know, they're not gonna, I mean, unless you sit here and listen, they're not gonna get that.
No, the community does not get, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, ultimately, what do you wanna see, through 2020 or through 2021?
Well, either way, we're technically only through 2020.
Right.
So,
So if we're only technically that, then Brian, maybe we go for the lower amount. If we're only technically through 2020, then we try to sell at the lesser millage, which, you know, could be more palatable.
which has a better chance of passing, but
You're talking about like the absolute lowest at 5.5?
5.9.
I think you make 5.9, yeah. But, I mean, I'm willing to go try 6.9, but my big concern is that
we'd hate to have it pushed off into the following calendar year on 1 mil.
Over, yeah. Is that risk worth that, is that extra, $400,000 or $500,000 difference at the end of 2020 worth that risk?
$2.50 a month.
And I think for the voters too, you know. Rather pay, you know, the 5.9 rate versus rolling over
Six
and
and,
paying the higher rate,
Yeah.
passing something in calendar year 2017.
so I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And we've, in past levies, we've done a lot of educating. Before we passed this last levy, I know we did the same thing, and we said, we talked about how each year the levy amount increases dramatically to do the same, 2 to 2.5 mils to do the same. If each year you put it off, and it took 2 or 3 years to pass the 5.9. So,
And then when it did pass, people were wanting to go back to the same services we had, 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years previous to the passage, because they gave us money. Well, that didn't happen. They passed us enough just to sustain us.
right.
Just to maintain what we
Just to
currently had
maintain what
After we had
currently
done
had,
all those
not to
reductions.
increase our educational opportunities here. And I just think that, for $2.50 a month, for me, I would like to think that my $2.50 contribution would be going to the benefit of giving the school an opportunity to increase their programming and what they do. For $2.50 a month, which is the difference between the 6 and the, is that the difference between the 6 and the
6 and 7, yeah.
7? Yeah, roughly, about $2.50 a month. I mean, but that's a hard sell, because quite frankly, the same people are gonna come back and say, we're wasting their money, and the same people are gonna come back and say, and there is no amount of money that no votes are gonna agree to. So we have to, concentrate on the positives and the turnouts. Educating the people, once again, it can be frustrating, because these people don't realize that if they pass this now, it's not gonna be as critical for next year. We're gonna have to jump up the millage. Most reasonable people would understand that.
Well, last time, we kept making drastic cuts, and I'm gonna go on record right now, in front of anybody who wants to hear, I will not make cuts like we did last time. I will not do that. No way. I'm not gonna do it. So we're gonna have some bottom line I'm gonna go to, and I'm not crossing it. It doesn't matter.
And I agree
And
with that.
and we crossed that line
I
last
do.
time,
We couldn't stand this guy.
in my opinion. I mean, you saw what happened to our test scores. We went from excellent with distinction
Yeah.
to not real good. And that's, and I'm not gonna do that again. So, I mean, there might be a few things we can do here and there, but we're not gonna drastically cut the program like we did last time, because it was just, as you were shocked when you came in and saw how, so, and it's kinda interesting. I've talked to our 3 previous superintendents, within the last 3 months, and they've all moved on to different places, and all of them are point blank. They just are shocked at how we do so well with so little. And actually, I talked to 2 of them. I talked to one of our ex-high school principals and one of our ex-superintendents at an event about 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, Todd. And I said, they were like, they were talking again about how impressed they were with what we do with so little, and how much, administratively we don't have, how we really squeeze the most we can out of every dollar. And I said, but, they both said if we wanted them to ever come back and talk to the community or something like that, they'd be more than willing to do that. So we may have to take, and plus, our superintendent, 2 superintendents ago, he says the same thing, is that, he was always, I mean, just, we do not, we, the collective we, you know, do a fabulous job of squeezing and being very fiscally responsible and squeezing every nickel, you know, the most we can out of every nickel. And I don't know that everybody recognizes that essentially. So, but like I said, what started this whole rant was, I'm not cutting as much as I did last time, so.
No, and the last time we were up, I mean, we were just a hair away from fiscal emergency. And if people think that that's, they can prolong this until it becomes an issue of fiscal emergency, I just think it's a bad mindset. We need to have the opportunity to run our business in an efficient and effective way. And like Brian said, I totally agree. We had to make a lot of decisions that were detrimental to this district, and for, you know, for the small amount of money that it would take to give us stability and breathing room, I don't think that's too much to ask.
Okay, Adam, what do you think, bud?
It's hard for me coming from the fact that I, you know, am 20 years old and in college and still live at home, so I don't have to pay taxes. So I have that added bonus. But sorry for everybody else, you know. But I definitely think that being in the school system when all this was going around the first time, and my mom being on the board and coming home after every board meeting and complaining and saying all this stuff about God knows what, now having to go through it myself, it is a mess, and I wouldn't like to see our school make cuts like that again either. So the better and further out we can get is better in my eyes.
Some of my concerns is that we have cut so much, and it goes to the appreciation that we have for our staff, that we juggle a lot. And you can see where on our agenda tonight, where we have people doing multiple positions, and we judge, or they juggle these things, and it's great that they can do that. It saves us a tremendous amount of money, but there is still a cost with that, because when you're doing 2 and 3 different positions, you can't necessarily put the focus that you know, other districts are using as a single person that can come in and focus on one particular job or discipline all day long and go home. We've got people that are coming in and focusing on 2 and 3 different agenda items, you know. And I worry about that. I worry about sometimes we have people doing too many things, all because we're trying to be good stewards, and also because they have a lot of pride in what they do, and they want to be contributing members of the staff and the administrators and the teaching staff. So I worry about that, but like Todd said, I don't see where we can show a lot more efficiencies with positions. And like Brian says, we don't want to go through those hard cuts like we did a few years ago. And by delaying this, I don't want to be threatening. I don't want to be, you know, harsh. But I just think it's a great value for our community if they support us and support our school district, and to take these kind of concerns off the table and give us a fair millage to do what we need to do to educate the students of the community. And I just think it's a fair compromise. I think we've shown due diligence in that they can trust us, and so I would love to see a positive campaign. I would love to see a good turnout, and I think we'll have a good turnout because the election is a presidential election. And so a good turnout would be hopefully supportive, be a good sign of support I don't know if anybody had numbers from the last turnout that we had the levy. You have any idea of what the,
It wasn't real high.
it wasn't real high?
It was a special election. Yeah, it was a special election. Yeah, why Todd's, yeah, why Todd's looking for that, I just want to dovetail on something Kenny said about how we have people wearing a lot of hats. You know, we eliminated the position of dean of students this year. So the principals are going to be handling the discipline and all that stuff. We pay our athletic director through a stipend, supplemental contract, I guess is the appropriate term. We pay our athletic director and assistant athletic director and all that. That's probably around $10,000 in supplementals to be athletic director. We are one of the only schools in the county that doesn't have a full-time, permanent, all they do is athletic director. In the schools that have that, you know, God bless them, that's fine, that's perfectly their choice, but that costs $60,000, $70,000 a year plus benefits. I mean, you look at the kind of things that we do, those are the kind of things that we do to help stretch those dollars. And thank goodness we've been able to maintain that and be able to, back in the days of Fred Brookover, Frank Rossi, Riley Foster, John Herchek, Brock Dreher, Tom McKinnon. I mean, all these years we've been able to, and now Mr. DeVries, we've been able to have teachers, staff members that are willing to do that. And you know, it's a lot of work. And I'm telling you, they're making about, they could go spend time at
I tell you what, they are
Walmart.
making. Let's put it that way. They are putting way more time and way more personal effort into these positions than what we can pay them through a stipend.
They're making about
But
minimum
they're
wage.
doing it because
They're
they
lucky.
love it. They're doing it because they love the kids. They want the kids to succeed, and they want them to have a good high school experience or middle school, elementary experience. And they do it because they love their job, they love the community. And the monies that we give them don't even touch the effort that they put into it. And like Brian said, I absolutely agree that the majority of the other school districts have the ability to have full-time staff members, and they're able to dedicate and focus all of their time into making these things work. And sometimes it worries me that we don't have that. But I would rather take a small step forward and still be moving forward.
I should have mentioned Seth Bowman and Miss Jones also have been in that
Yeah.
mix. I hate to name people because you always miss
You've
somebody.
been around a while.
But
You've seen them all.
but I guess so. My dilemma is I think our best shot at passing the levy is 5.9. I think and this is just my opinion. I think that's our best shot. Actually, lower is better, but I think that 5.9 is the most reasonable based on the data that Todd has given us, which we know is always scarily accurate. You know, scary how accurate it is. But you know, I'd like to go 6.9, but I really think that the best chance we have is 5.9. I will support what the majority of you guys think, and we're going to work our butts off to make it happen, and all those things. But I just think that's our best shot. I mean, again, but there's a lot of different schools of thought to that. But that's, and we just, and the last levy we passed was 5.9. So.
Well,
What do you think, Diane?
what I think is, I'm sticking with what I had originally said. You go halfway down, it takes you about 6.5, but in the reality of it, the 5.9 is gonna be the better shot to get the community to pass it. I'm gonna tell you that right now, only because I've worked on these levy committees, and that's just the way it's gonna end up, because they're just not going to go for that 6.9. I can just tell you right now, it's not gonna happen. And then we'll be pushing it out another year.
Do you want to expand
That's
on
just my
continuing,
thoughts on that.
What the definitions of continuing compared to?
Yeah, we can talk about it. Okay.
Can you push it to the limit?
Want me to mention on that?
I'm sorry.
Want me to talk on that?
Sure. What did you have as far as amount? Do you have a feel for what you? I mean,
I'm not, like I said, a taxpayer, so yeah.
you
So,
say the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, Rev it up now. You guys are.
We could just send the Gump family a check, or a bill for whatever we're gonna raise.
Yeah, that'd work. No, you guys are members of the taxpaying community, and if that's what you think will sell the best, then that's what I would agree with.
Can we just expand just a minute on the definition of a continuing levy as opposed to the,
Sure.
what we're operating under now, which is a 5-year defined, is it emergency levy or?
Yeah, so right now we
Yeah.
have a 5-year emergency levy raises a specific dollar amount. And yeah, so if you pass a continuing levy, I mean, never has to be before the voters again. So usually when you pass a 5-year operating, it's always under the, where, you have a situation where you need to get through a period of time and then you might be okay, after renew, but that's not the situation. I mean, we need that constant revenue stream, not only for the next 5 years, but for a long time. And the thing you get into is, when you have 2 emergency levies or you have 2 5-year operating levies, people always have the perception that, hey, I just went back and passed the levy for you. And it's true, they do. But in reality, it doesn't increase our revenue streams. They're renewing the same amount of money for the district. So then you get yourself stacked up on these levies where, we're talking about 1 5-year operating levy, and now we're talking about continuing, but you go for, again, 2 5-year operating levies, you're stacking them up, and we're gonna be asking for 2 operating levies, and we're gonna be asking for either a continuing levy or another 5-year operating levy 3 years from now,
So let me, if I summarize this, if I mess this up, let me know. So in summarizing, if we went for a renewable levy, we would have to renew that in 5 years.
Well, probably before 5 years.
Before 5 years.
That revenue start
Plus,
to come in a little bit
next
sooner.
year we have to renew the one that we already have. So then in another 3 or 4 years, we're gonna have to renew 2 more levies, and we may need more money.
So, yeah, so in 3 years, we would go back again with another, and then they're just gonna get frustrated, and that is a perception, is that you're always hitting me for money, and it's frustrating on our part. But once again, you go back to defining, having the ability to make plans and run your system with some assurity of financial stability. And doing these renewable emergency levies, to me, that doesn't show stability. That shows basically we're doing the minimum to keep the doors open.
And really,
Because we can't make the
you don't do
plans.
the minimum because at any point in time, the voters could not renew a renewal and those revenue streams disappear. So, I mean,
And that would be catastrophic.
you don't even try to do the minimum,
Yeah, that would be catastrophic if that was the case to us, financially. I think if our 5-year renewable was turned down, I can't imagine it. But that's why I think it's important to give stability and to the district. And that's why I definitely am a big proponent of a continuing levy, or continuing operating levy, yes. It helps us with our staff. It helps us with the quality of education we can provide. It helps us plan, and it gives us some stability financially. So I think if it's your intention that, and Brian, you've been around, you've seen levy campaign after levy campaign. If you think a 5.9 would be more to the community's taste, I would agree with that. I just think that it would not be that much to ask for the extra few cents to go to a 6.9.
Right.
But
And I think we're definitely talking continuing, nothing we have to renew again. So we're good there. And I keep toying around my thought process in my head is what I'm toying around with and thinking about is that you've got X number of voters who are going to vote yes.
yeah,
And you've got X number of voters who are going to vote no, or Y voters are going to vote no. So you wonder, can you sway some of those why no voters to yes with a 5.9? And will you lose some of the X voters over here to no if you go to 6.9? You know what I mean? I would love to see, I would love to see 6.9, but I just think that it's a risk. It's a bigger risk. If
I think it's more important that we pass it, because I
That's
think
kinda where
passing
I'm-
it in this fall is going to save us so much more.
yeah, passing it now, because if we,
It's critical that it passes in the fall.
because if it doesn't, no matter what, we're at 8.
Yeah.
So
At that point, we really,
We're-
then we become a hard sell.
we're up at that proverbial creek.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're back to battle.
Yeah.
So I think whatever it would take to
You agree? You say?
concede to that, to give us our best shot to pass for this fall is what we really should do.
Okay. So I guess we're all in some form of agreement that a 5.9 continuing is what we need to go with. You're okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir?
Yes,
Okay.
because of the continuing. I think that we will concede the millage to have the
It has to be
opportunity to have a
continuing.
continuing.
Well, last time, we tried so many times, I forget how many times it took to pass last
I
time. It was a lot.
remember, it was-
Because we started with, we didn't want to go renewable.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at the end of the day, we kind of had to because we were to the point of being in fiscal emergency and all that stuff.
Against the
So,
wall.
okay. So, Todd, you need a resolution?
Yes.
Are we going with 5.9 or are we going with 6?
5.9.
5.9?
Can we go with 5.99, Todd? No, just 5.9.
So the resolution will read as it is on
Okay.
the agenda. Okay. To approve the resolution determining and submit to the elected for Water Local School District the question of the levying of an additional tax to avoid an operating deficit. Okay. And then the resolution that will be submitted to the county auditor will be requesting the county auditor for a calculation necessary to levy an additional tax of 5.9 mils in excess of the 10 mil limitation for a continuing period of time.
Everybody's good with that? Can we have a motion?
Yes.
A second, please?
I'll second.
Any further comments? All I can say is thank you very much, Todd, because the numbers, I looked again at the numbers you sent. I looked at lunchtime, and it was like a diet trick. I lost my appetite. So you went through and refigured, looked at the numbers based on this additional data.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge.
That's huge, so-
A huge,
So thanks for that
thing for
effort.
the district, I mean, being able to juggle things around like that, because the millage would have been considerably a lot higher.
Yes, so, okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Wilsey?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Gum?
Yes.
Pussenberry?
Yes. How close are we to the floor?
We're
Or to the 20
close,
mils.
but
Like
we're
tw-
not there. I don't have that in front of me, and I don't anticipate dropping
We're not
back
gonna,
down.
because values have to go up, right?
Yeah.
Values keep leveling off and
Right.
dropping. Okay, any, I guess we're gonna recess into executive session to discuss employment. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second, please.
Second.
Roll call, please, Tom?
Whittlesey?
Yes.
Gum?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Pussenberry?
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for coming in here on this beautiful sunny day. We got rain last night.
Yeah. Tomorrow's supposed to be beautiful.
Katie lost power on New Milford Road.
Really?
This morning, yeah, she had to come out and get ready, right? I didn't, I wasn't home, I was in Toledo, or in Fremont. They got a hailstorm up there last night. Trees down and everything, but it wasn't.
We needed that, right?
Yeah, we need a nice 2-day drizzle. That's what we need. Sean. Please.